misunderstanding.
From the Quran, not mine.
No, not from the Quran.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
I think that's wrong.
Can I finish?
It's from your own understanding.
From the Quran.
You understand
That's your understanding.
from the English language, in between the ribs and the backbone is referring to here. Now, scientifically, this interpretation of yours is wrong, as a doctor was saying, and you doubt his medical qualification. No problem. No problem. I apologize on his behalf. Anyway, Theo, my next point. My next point. You are forcing your limited understanding of the language to refer to in between the backbones and ribs, refer to here.
Anatomy always, when organ is defined in relation to another organ. So you can't just say this organ is there.
They meet here.
To clarify the point again,
where's the pivotal
when the Quran describes in between the sulb and tara'ib, I said these two reference points refer to or point to a particular area in between them. Now, where exactly this point is what you are disputing and what we're trying to clarify.
Exactly.
You are somehow pinpointing that it means these are the ribs and that's the backbone, it must be here. I'm saying no. Just like the example in the English, in between me, I'm going to repeat the same example, there's no point repeating another example. In between me and Marble Arch train station, I'm going to meet a friend. He would say, using his principles, in between me and Marble Arch, it must be somewhere in the middle. But I'm saying no, it could be here or any point between the two reference points. So when the Quran describes, and I gave you a hadith of the Prophet, where he described, he guarantees paradise to an individual who can safeguard what is in between their lips and in between their two legs. We know that in between the two legs there's a huge area, but here it's referring to a particular point, which is still correct. It could refer to in between the two knees, right? Linguistically. You are forcing an interpretation in between the backbone and the ribs is referring to here. I'm saying this is your misunderstanding of the language and the phrase people use. So I've given you an example from the Quran about the ma and dafiq. I've given you an example from the hadith, how the Prophet explained the phrase in between. Your misunderstanding, in a nutshell then, comes from your limited understanding of English language, forcing this onto the richness of the Arabic language. That's all I can see.
By the way,
there is no scientific mistake in the Quran. It's what I have demonstrated.
You are saying I have limited understanding. You are saying
my mammalian glands, which is the breast, yeah?
And you are saying I don't know anything.
This is as well, Allah described the women in Jannah.
Discuss in Surah chapter
وَكَوَاعِبَ
86,
أَتْرَابًا. Yeah, they have
verse 5 to
atrab.
7
Allah described
says,
atrab, which means
man should
their
ponder
breasts are
on
like.
what he
Let him
was
hear
created
it.
from. He was created from a fluid that is eject emerging between the backbone and the rib. This is the argument.
Okay.
Initially, he stated that the verse between 5 and 6 is talking about the fluid, and 7 is talking about the baby coming out. That is initial understanding. But even if he has to take my point of view, that is talking about the sperm or fluid, he will still prove it in scientific way that the Quran is still correct.
Okay.
Which I did.
Now,
everyone here.
Sir, please. When you were talking, I was quiet.
No, you got something to...
The last make my conclusion, sir. Now, secondly, I argued that when he says man should ponder on what, from what he was created from, when you ask anyone, from what man is created from. If you are talking of Adam, of course, that is a different angle. If you are talking of baby, you say sperm or seed from a man, right? So is the verse between 5 and 7 is not talking about the baby coming, but rather how the baby is conceived. Rather, that's my argument. And so I went further and explained where the sperm comes from. And I said there's testicles and epididymis or whatever they call it in science. I don't pronounce the words correct, but epididymis is where the sperm is stored, and then through the ejaculation it moves from there and passes through the tube and goes straight to the woman, and then it conceives. Now, it is his argument that the fluid is talking about it's not. He has to make a distinction between the fluid and the sperm. Okay, he made that distinction, and when he did so he says when the sperm moves from the epidermis, it meets with the other fluid that comes from. He makes some scientific explanation that meets and then ejaculates to the woman, right? That's his point. So I asked the question, so what is the name of that fluid that meets with the sperm before it moves? And then he says it's semen. I don't know if I'm quoting you correct. He says semen.
You misunderstood when on to the fluid. You're saying the fluid is one of the components. I am saying
I didn't
this.
say that. You made
This
that
is
distinction.
no. You have made this erroneous assertion throughout in your understanding. I am saying the fluid is the combination of all the mixtures that is contributing to the ejaculate.
So the one that
you
from
are
the
somehow
backbone
saying
and
what
the
is the
rib is
name?
what
The
fluid?
name is the semen.
Backbone. No, the
reproductive
backbone. The
substance.
one coming from the backbone.
The one
and
doesn't come from the
ribs.
backbone. Again, you make the second error again and again. I'm saying
This is
this
difficult.
fluid, the fluid, it comes from a reference point, from this two
Sir,
reference point.
let me-
It doesn't come from the backbone and it doesn't come from the spine.
Come
He
again.
keeps on making the same mistake again. I don't think there's no
Let me
point
read this
repeating it again.
Yeah? It says,
Kalam, I think you need to get the most of the other parts that we discussed from the other channels,
yeah, no
because that
problem.
gives you proper context.
No,
because
so-
if you're now taking, sorry,
You concluded before I
I'm not
started.
concluding. I'm just
No,
saying
you spoke
you
before
need
I
to
am.
you need to get the full picture that we've discussed from the other channels, so that it gives you the overall discussion that we had, rather than his point of view here as if like he's made this point.
No, no problem.
Okay? Is that fair?
That's you.
I can't put their stuff on my channel. I can link it.
Link it, link the whole
Now,
thing.
this is it.
It's available in what one? Dawah Media? Dawah
I
Media.
read, so let man observe
And-
from what he was quoted from.
I'll share it to you.
It says, so let man observe from what he was created from.
What's your
so
channel?
it's talking of what he was created from, not other fluid.
Oh, and
Not- my
SCDawah as
argument-
well.
My argument is not other fluid. He's talking of exactly from what he was created from. So my argument
Been
is he's
having
talking
a
of sperm.
debate for him like quite long.
And then he made
Over
a
2 hours.
distinction that is not sperm, because sperm is
Conversation.
called nutfa. But this one is meh, which is water, which can include the sperm. Yes? That's the honest account I'm giving. So I said, fine. When he says he was created from a fluid eject, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. So we have to find out what kind of fluid that emerges between the backbone and the fluid and the ribs. Then his argument was, from the scientific analysis he did, is that all the semen, sperm, and all those things comes and meets as one fluid or water, then emerges out. And I said, if that is so, then you are talking of production of sperm, not creation of man. That is my argument. Okay. So I went further and said, because it's talking of production of man instead of production of sperm, your analysis will be wrong, because you are talking of other ingredients coming to meet together. So this is not what the Quran says. It says, ponder on what man is created from, emerging water, emerging fluid, eject, and emerging to, from backbone and the rib. And then we went on and on and on. By the end of the day, I disagree with his opinion, respectfully, because if he's talking of sperm, different topic. If he's talking of creation of man, different topic.
What about semen? Could it be semen?
If it's semen, then the Quran is saying it's coming between the backbone and the ribs.
Where's semen based?
So that's not the point.
Okay,
Where's
Kalam.
semen created?
Okay. So now,
No,
are you finished?
I'm
Finish your
almost
statement, and
done.
I need to
So
make a finishing
my
statement so everyone.
conclusion is, if he's talking of production of sperm, yes, then he is right. But because the context is ponder on what man is created from, then it's not talking about production of sperm. talking about how the sperm is moving to come for a woman to be to have conception. So in that case, that fluid is one that coming between the backbone and the ribs. And if that is so, then the Quran is wrong, because we know that the sperm is created in the testicles and stored in the epidermis. That is what science says. If you are talking of movement, that's a different topic. But if he's talking of creation of sperm, you are right. He's talking creation of man, he's wrong. And the Quran is wrong.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
One moment, brother, let's finish this. Theo,
Yeah.
I enjoyed this discussion because what you will realize that people who have been here listening to us, and then people who will listen to us in the future, they would appreciate our points of view.
Exactly.
Because we allowed each other to express ourselves to the point where our point could be made,
Exactly.
and people understand what it is. But what I have tried, my aim and objective has been in this session today, is an interpretation that I was offering, which I take as a second interpretation. My first interpretation, which I will always offer, is that it refers to a human being, and I have offered before in several occasions. I said, even if I were to take the second interpretation, which a lot of people take and which you are taking as well, I will offer to you explanations which are congruent, in harmony with anatomy and physiology from science, and which are true to the text itself that the Quran describes. So in summary, what I said, when the Quran describes, let man ponder of what he's created from, he is created from a fluid that is gushing forth, emerging from between the sulb and tara'ib. So I defined, for the sake of discussion with you to proceed, sulb means the backbone, tara'ib means the bones within the chest. Even though I would have offered, which I have briefly, that tara'ib can be referred to in between the two hands, two eyes and two legs. Classical interpretation from Ad-Dahhak, for example, one of the Tabi'i, okay, if I'm not mistaken. So we have classical interpreters which talk about this. So there are various examples Muslim exegetes explain. Is it referring to the man's, or to the woman, or to the both, or one or the other?
One second, Makari's fault. Just to
Okay,
let you know, Makari's fault.
you need to share with him, So what we're saying is, we are talking about the Quran addressing and inviting people to think, and then answers with 2 points here at least. The creation of man, by saying creation, using the second interpretation that I'm saying, even that is scientifically correct, is that particular region that is described by this anterior and posterior reference point falls exactly within the area science describes. So scientifically then, there are no mistakes whatsoever in the description the Quran provides. But if you say that's not miraculous, that's not the claim I'm making. The claim I'm making is nothing about miraculous. You came along early to say Quran, last time, the Quran makes a mistake in science, then I would say it's not a scientific mistake. If you said I made a claim the Quran is scientific, I would say actually there's an amazing feature to ponder upon, which is the ma'un dafiq, in my first preferred opinion, which is 2 parts. One is referring to the gushing water which contains the sperm, which is self-motile. That is something that we should be amazed. How does the Quran talk about this? It's a recent knowledge. How recent, medical scientists will tell you. And then the second point is, it's just describing how the human being emerges from this 2 reference point, protected by the spine and the ribs, because God describes earlier on how he will have no helper later. Okay, and how the piercing star, describing something so powerful, and it has all these things. So there are reference points. Yeah, the reference point implied. So in summary, then, Theo, in my opinion, as I have demonstrated to you, I don't see any room for any scientific error. You might disagree with me, but let the people decide, and then we leave it to that. So let us hope that God opens your heart to Al-Islam, to the religion of Islam, so that you know the truth of Islam, and you may be guided so that in the hereafter you are saved from the hellfire if you worship other than God.
I also pray that you are visited by the touch of God and imbued in you the Holy Spirit so that you understand His knowledge of the Bible so that you will be saved from the hellfire. That is emerging. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Theo.